Hello and welcome to Chapter 3, the Late Classical Period, pages 113 through 121. The learning objectives we're going over are to analyze the transition into the Hellenistic period, which is a very important period that had significant impact on the world in general, especially in relative areas of Asia. And we're also going to be identifying important figures of said period, including architectural and artistic developments and social and cultural changes. The late classical period was mainly focused around art, as you can see with sculptures in this period, brought an entirely new style that emphasized an expression through art. And Praxiteles was one of the major proponents of this style, where you can see his sculpture right here, one of the only undisputed works of a Greek sculptor dating back to this era. You can see how it is able to express the just expressions in general in the sculpture, and you also have to take note of how he's sculpted. He can tone the muscles and features of the man while keeping the skin on the infant smooth and looking soft. These are some more of his sculptures. Lysipis, Lysipis is one of the most important, well, the most important sculptor to follow Praxiteles. He introduced more slender and graceful figures and he made the most sculptures than any other artist during this period. So if you just take a look, you can see how, especially on his horse one, you can see how it's really just really smooth. How he just carved the stone to actually look realistic and not rugged and rough. So now moving to the Hellenistic period, Alexander the Great's death really spread Greek culture even widely as everyone started to sort of drift apart. Um, Rulers of new kingdoms formed, and they fostered Greek art and literature as means of holding forward influences at bay, meaning that they didn't want anyone coming in and changing the culture that they had made for themselves. And Hellenistic rulers turned primarily to visual arts, which inaugurated the last period of Greek art. So they didn't really turn to anything else, such as literature. Well, there was literature, but they focused mainly on art as an expression of themselves. As I had said earlier, art is mainly what we talk about during this period. So Rome's conquest is the conquest of the I can't say that word. The conquest of the Hellenistic kingdoms by Rome, which it kind of went against what I said previously back here, where they didn't want foreign influences. This basically forced a foreign influence onto them, which combined their culture with Italian culture. And this ultimately set the stage for the history of Roman art, as in the Pontic War, Rome defeated Pharnaces II, and in the War of Actium, Rome conquered the Ptolemaic, Ptolemaic Egypt, which ended the Hellenistic period altogether. So, there's some philosophers we have to talk about, which are also important figures in antiquity. There's Plato, I don't know how to say it, which founded his academy in 387 BCE, which he used to teach morality and governance, which was very important back then, as well as Aristotle, who studied and taught under Plato, and founded Lyceum in 335 BCE. And an important figure today we can relate to those two philosophers would be Martha Nussbaum, who is an American philosopher, as well as a service professor of law and ethics at the University of Chicago today. So here's some Google Earth locations. There's the Pergamon altar, which was used for, I believe, it was a place of sacrifice and a monument to the gods of Zeus and Athena, as well as Alexandria, which was the capital of the Ptolemaic kingdom, which, if you remember, it was conquered by Rome through the War of Actium. And yeah, and then so to come to a conclusion, the um, the late classical period and the Hellenistic period laid a foundation for art and literature, as well as allowing for an advanced display of emotion through art, and taught concepts such as justice and morality. And then I have a video about the Hellenistic period here.
In classical antiquity, the Hellenistic period covers the time in Mediterranean history after classical Greece, between the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC and the emergence of the Roman Empire. In
So yeah,
classical
you
antiquity,
quite it.
the Hellenistic period covers the time in Mediterranean history after classical Greece, between the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC and the emergence of the Roman.
Okay, it wouldn't pause. So it said the death of Alexander the Great and the emerge of the Roman Empire. Remember that the Roman Empire were the ones who eventually took conquest over the Hellenistic kingdoms.
Empire. The ancient Greek word Hellas was gradually recognized as the name for Greece. Hellenistic kingdoms were established throughout Southwest Asia, Seleucid Empire, Kingdom of Pergamon, Northeast Africa.
See where it said Kingdom of Pergamon. Remember, Pergamon had the altar, which was used to worship the gods.
Ptolemaic Kingdom, and South Asia, Greco-Bactrian Kingdom, Indo-Greek Kingdom. During the Hellenistic period, Greek cultural influence and power reached its peak in the Mediterranean and beyond. The religious sphere expanded to include new gods such as the Greco-Egyptian Serapis, Eastern deities such as Attis and Cybele. Proposals as the closing event include the final conquest of the Greek heartlands by Rome in 146 BC following the Achaean War, the final defeat of the Ptolemaic kingdom at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC. The idea of a Hellenistic period is a 19th century concept, and did not exist in ancient Greece. The term was coined by Johann Gustav Droysen in the mid-19th century. Hellenism has been widely used in various contexts.
So yeah, that's really it. It just talks brief summary of basically what I was covering, how Rome went and conquered the Hellenistic periods, and how they were heavy on their art, and they also incorporated some religion through the altar as well to worship the gods. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for listening.